Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to the video. Today, we're going to be covering the top 5 most surprising, shocking, and unexpected things of the Overwatch League so far. Now, I'm not only going to use my perspective on this, I also want to look at what you guys think are the most shocking and surprising things so far. So I've been on Reddit, I've been reading my comments, and overall I think I have a good idea of things that you guys did not expect would happen so far. So if you guys are new to my channel, please consider dropping a subscription. I do awesome Overwatch League content every single day. Sometimes we have multiple videos, so slap a like on it, subscribe to the channel, let's go ahead and hop into this. So the 5th most surprising thing so far of the Overwatch League is the Florida Mayhem's bad performance. Now, prior to the preseason, a lot of people's power rankings had the Florida Mayhem at least top 7 and most likely making the playoffs at the end of the season. Personally, for me, I had them at top 8, and I did think they would be a strong contender to make the playoffs. A big reason why most of us thought that they were going to be a strong contender is because they had a lot of prior synergy coming into the league. These 6 players were a team under the Miami Misfits. They played in the European region. They got 2nd place in EU Contender Season 1. Although they got 2nd, they still did look really strong throughout the entire season, and most had them winning in the end, but Gigante did best them in the finals. Also, historically, a lot of the players on this team have been playing for a long time together, and they've been known as some of the best players Europe has to offer. Specifically, one being Tavik. Tavik has basically been known as Europe's golden boy. Whenever people think European Overwatch, they think Tavik. One of the best players, one of the most flexible, he can do almost everything. And Tavik was definitely a big reason why a lot of you guys thought the Florida Mayhem were going to be a strong team going into the league. Now, personally me, I haven't been on that Tavik hype train for a while. Sure, he's had some consistent performances here and there, but he hasn't been popping off like he used to way back in early stages of Overwatch. Despite this though, I still thought the Florida Mayhem were going to have a nice head start that would allow them to get some good wins off of some of the teams that were basically brand new and built with a bunch of random players from other teams. This was definitely not the case though, and by many surprise, the Florida Mayhem were one of the weakest in the entire league. They were losing to every team. And they weren't just losing. I mean, they were getting stomped by teams like San Francisco, Dallas Fuel, LA Valiant, Philadelphia Fusion. Some of the teams that maybe at times weren't expected to be the best, but were still consistent teams. They were destroying the Florida Mayhem. I would have liked to at least see Florida Mayhem put up some good fights against these teams, and I know you guys expected that as well. The only win they've gotten in Stage 1 was off the Shanghai Dragons, and that game wasn't even that impressive. Other than that, their best performance was probably against the Philadelphia Fusion in the Stage 1 closer, where they went 2-2 and lost the tiebreaker on Lijiang Tower. They looked okay in that match, but with Philadelphia's history of looking very inconsistent, I just wasn't that impressed. So overall, the Florida Mayhem have definitely let me down so far. They definitely let a lot of their fans down, as well as a lot of us as just fans who love to see good Overwatch. They've had some very disappointing performances, and just as a team who had prior experience coming into the league, they should have been in a better position than this. I'd definitely say they threw away a bit of an advantage, because coming into Stage 1 is when they were supposed to be ahead of some of the other teams, and they honestly just looked behind a lot of the teams, which was not supposed to happen. And as for the European community as well, they must be disappointed too, because this team has basically been built from the best European players. Sure, maybe not all of them, but this is the only team of full Europeans, and they were, prior to the Overwatch League, some of the best players from that region. So you just have to think Europe as a whole, the region has been let down a little bit. They have made some changes and picked up some Korean players as well as a new assistant coach. Maybe this will help them improve going into Stage 2. I'd expect some of their games to be a little bit closer now that they have Seiya player and Awesome Guy, but I don't know how much it'll do for them. We'll just have to wait and see. And that's it for the Florida Mayhem. They are one of the most shocking and surprising things about Overwatch League so far. Now let's move on to something that has shocked and surprised us in a good way, which is the Houston Outlaws. Now, I'll be honest, I knew they were going to be good coming into the league, but I had no idea they would be this good. I would have never predicted a 4-0 win for the Houston Outlaws against London Spitfire. I would have never predicted them to make the playoffs over the Seoul Dynasty. They have been really performing out of their minds. None of us expected them to be this good. And I think the way they did it is even more shocking and surprising, because that very first week they played, they got stomped. They got ripped apart by the New York Excelsior and the Philadelphia Fusion in that game opener. I remember after that game, I was like, man, crap, is my prediction about the Houston Outlaws being good wrong? Because I didn't think that the Philadelphia Fusion would be that strong coming into the league, because they had no practice. They literally came in basically blind. So I expected the Houston Outlaws to take that one fairly easy, and when they struggled and lost to the Fusion, I was like, dang. But that's why it's so impressive. They struggled so much in that first week, and then in the second week, they came out guns blazing. It looked like a brand new team. They were so refreshed. The gameplay was so clean. Jake's Junkrat was on point. Muma was looking fantastic on Orisa and Winston. Coolmat on Diva. Linkser, one of the best DPS in the game. Seemed like everything was just clicking for the Houston Outlaws when week 2 started. We saw literally close to no mistakes from the Houston Outlaws. All of their players were playing on point. They had the 2 most back-to-back dominating wins of the entire season from any team. They destroyed the Shanghai Dragons. I mean, they obliterated them. And in that second set of the week where they played Dallas, oh my god, that was a stomp. First hold. 2-0 Koth. They honestly made the Dallas Fuel look like such an amateur team. Like they were from Open or something. And the Dallas Fuel weren't that bad. They were coming off of a week where they had an extremely close match against Seoul Dynasty, and then a pretty close one against the Valiant. So the way Houston handled them was incredible. The Dallas Fuel barely won a team fight. I remember covering that game and looking at the statistics in my video. It was like 6 team fights won to 50. The Dallas Fuel had no chance in that set. The Houston Outlaws looked amazing in week 2, and they continued that dominance all the way to the playoffs. They had a 4-0 victory against the London Spitfire. They had a nail-biting match against Seoul Dynasty where they barely lost without Linkser, guys. And we all know how much Linkser provides to that team. He is so good. With Linkser, they would have won that set, hands down. Sure, it's a what if, but I think they would have. Coming into the Overwatch League, people had them at maybe top 8, top 7. At best, some people maybe top 5, but damn well nobody had them top 3 or making the stage 1 playoffs. I thought they'd be pretty good, but I only had them at top 5, man, not top 3 making the stage 1 playoffs. So I was definitely shocked and surprised too. I know you guys are. A Western team that can go head to head with some of the best Korean teams. It's really great Overwatch to see. I'm very proud of them, and that's the Houston Outlaws at the 4th most surprising thing about the Overwatch League so far. Now moving on to the 3rd most shocking and surprising thing. This one probably isn't that exciting for anyone though, and it is the underperformance by the Dallas Fuel. We just did talk about them a little bit and how they got crushed by the Houston Outlaws, and I'm pretty sure nobody really predicted the Dallas Fuel to be this bad. Sure, I sat here and I said at the start of the season that the Dallas Fuel would struggle and they weren't going to be that amazing top 3, top 4 team that most people thought they would be. I thought they'd be sitting more around 5, 6, 7, not 10, 11, or 12. All the way up until week 5, they were honestly looking like one of the worst teams in the entire league, which was very, very surprising to a lot of us, especially after their first game against Seoul Dynasty. You would have expected them to have a much better season than that. I mean, going head to head and narrowly losing in that very first game against Seoul Dynasty, the Dallas Fuel, instead of being proud of themselves, they went into like some deep depression where they just slumped so hard, and it didn't make sense. They were so unsatisfied with how they performed in that very first week, and also after that first week, they completely panicked. They started running weird team comps with weird rosters, mixtures of players that we never really expected them to run, and it just didn't make sense why they didn't come into the regular season and run the original 6 Envious players and then ease in the subs, ease them in, slowly integrate them into the team. But it was just a complete mess, and the Dallas Fuel were honestly a huge surprise to me, huge surprise to everybody. They underperformed massively, and after week 2, the Dallas Fuel were honestly a complete wreck. But once we got to around week 4-ish, week 5, they started picking it back up and played a bit better. They got a win off of the Los Angeles Gladiators in the last week, as well as a win off of the Shanghai Dragons. Sure, it was very close games against Shanghai Dragons. It went to the 5th map, but they got that win off of them. And the LA Gladiators, they looked pretty good against them. The main thing about them is they were really inconsistent. Either they would show up for a match, or they would show down for a match. And when I say show down, I mean they didn't try at all. They just looked terrible, like their match against the Philadelphia Fusion. And this caught us off guard. Sure, they did have a couple close matches versus some good teams, but still they were never able to find the victory. Every time it got to the end of the match and it was in either game 5, game 4, where they were in a must-win team fight, they would fall apart and lose it. They would make terrible mistakes. But like I said, they did get those 2 wins in week 5, so going into stage 2, if they're able to get maybe a 60-70% win rate, they still have a shot at the playoffs. It is a long shot though, as they are far behind a lot of the other teams who are in contention for the playoffs. And that's it for the Dallas Fuel at number 3. Moving on to number 2, we have the Boston Uprising. Boston, Boston, Boston. What a surprise. Let's just start from the beginning. When the Boston Uprising roster was announced, everything from their video production to the editing and the roster was just flat out to everyone seemed like a joke. It was underwhelming. Everybody was thinking, wow, how did some of these players get in the Overwatch League? There are so many other options that the Boston Uprising could have went with, and the team could have been so much better. Wow, they're dead last. They can't beat anybody. And everybody just wrote them off. Now, I can see why, with the combination of the terrible video production and all that crap, just all combined, sure, it was a little upsetting and it was kind of a letdown. But after looking into the roster and realizing where some of the pieces come from, you would notice that some of their players were actually very good individually. They might have been on unknown teams that weren't very good, but if you watch the games that they played, you would see that those players were actually performing at pretty high levels. For instance, Striker. Basically, nobody knew who Striker was going into the Overwatch League, right? But it turns out he's one of the best traces in the entire league. And prior to the Overwatch League, if you did some research on him, you would have known that he was actually a very strong player. Sure, maybe you wouldn't be able to see that he was going to be this good, but still you had to give them some credit. Now, if you haven't seen, guys, I actually made a video way back before the preseason. It was like maybe December 1st. I posted a video titled, "The Boston Uprising Will Win the Overwatch League." I'll link this video down in the description if you guys are interested in taking a look at it. I basically highlighted every player, staff member, owner, manager, pretty much everybody involved in the Boston Uprising. I highlighted their past experience and where they come from. And my conclusion after doing all of that was that I think the Boston Uprising were really capable of becoming a contender, whether it was a lower tier playoff team or even a championship contender. I knew from doing research that they would end up being a pretty decent team once they nailed down teamwork and all that stuff. Now, regardless of me doing all of that and doing my research and thinking that they were going to be a decent team, I definitely never expected them to be the first team to beat the London Spitfire. That was crazy, man. I did not expect that whatsoever. I had a feeling they could be pretty good, but not that good that fast. Absolutely insane. And of course, I had my doubts about the roster too. Looking at Note, I was like, wow, man, okay, I'm not sure why he got signed. Not really much previous experience. He was actually one of the players on this team that didn't have much previous experience besides competing a little with Toronto eSports. I thought maybe just because Huck was running Toronto that he thought he would just bring Note as, a favor or being nice or something, but that was definitely not true at all. Huck saw Note as a gem. He knew that he had it in him to become a great player, and I have no clue. It blows my mind still that Note is starting over Kalios. Kalios is a great player. He's an amazing diva, but Note has been playing like a god. This guy shocked me. He is one of the biggest surprises of this entire league. And don't get me wrong, I know Dreamcasper, Gamsu, Nako, Striker, they've all surprised us in crazy ways. We didn't think any of them were going to be this good. But specifically, Note, he's like the icing on the cake, the cherry on the top. Unreal, man. The guy really stepped up and is performing at an incredible level that I never seen coming. I definitely did not expect the Boston Uprising to be as good as they are. I knew they'd have some good games with some decent teams in the league, but I titled the video, "They will win the Overwatch League," but come on, you guys got clickbaited, right? Obviously I didn't mean they're going to win the Overwatch League, and I didn't expect them to be top 4. Boston Uprising have come so far, and who knows how far they will continue to go. These guys are probably going to be a championship contender come playoff time. I honestly wouldn't put it past them. There's no reason for us to doubt them. They've done basically nothing but improve throughout stage 1, and with 3 more stages to go, why can't they? You know what I mean? There's no reason to doubt them. They definitely shocked me, and I know they shocked you guys. Anybody sitting here saying that the Boston Uprising haven't overperformed or shocked them in a certain way, you're lying. You're straight up lying to yourself. You're lying to everybody you're telling that to, and that's just fact. And I'm sure you guys knew that Boston Uprising would be on this list. They have been a huge success. Many of you guys probably thought I was going to put them at number 1, but I have saved one last team for that spot. The most surprising team for me, and what I think the most surprising team for you guys is the Seoul Dynasty. Oh man, oh man, oh man. This one might be a little controversial. Maybe I should have put them at 3 or 4. But who expected Seoul Dynasty not to finish top 3 in stage 1? No one expected Seoul Dynasty not to be top 3 at the end of stage 1, let alone 5th freaking place. Seoul Dynasty finished in 5th place. Everybody thought they were going to win it. If not top 3, come on, you do not If somebody says down in the comments that they knew Seoul Dynasty was not going to make top 3, you're crazy. You're lying. Don't lie, please. Be honest, guys. This is the absolute most shocking thing about the Overwatch League so far. Man, they were just looking so good up until the end of week 3 where they took on New York Excelsior. Now, this match was very close, as expected. I thought the Seoul Dynasty were going to win it, but I knew it would be close. New York Excelsior came out on top. I was impressed with them. So Seoul Dynasty lost to the NYXL. Wasn't too much to think about. You know, NYXL is a great team. Then we got to week 4. And they got 4-0'd by London Spitfire, and it's like, okay, London Spitfire is pretty good. Seoul Dynasty, they didn't run Ryu Jahong at all on flex support. They had him on Mercy. You know, like, okay, they're doing some weird stuff. They'll get it back. They'll be fine next match. They go up against the Houston Outlaws. They narrowly come out on top of this one, and the Houston Outlaws don't even have Linkser. So I'm starting to think, okay, Seoul Dynasty, get your stuff together. You got to win out next week. You beat the Los Angeles Valiant. You're in the playoffs. You're Gucci. Everything's good, right? No. The Los Angeles Valiant destroy Seoul Dynasty 3-0. Wasn't really close, to be honest. Seoul Dynasty looked like a mess. I was like, whoa. How did the Los Angeles Valiant, one of the most inconsistent teams of Stage 1, just 3-0 Seoul Dynasty in a match that determines if they will make the playoffs or not? This is a clutch situation where we are used to this team, these players coming up big, where they succeed. Ex-Lunatic High, best to ever play the game. Of course they're going to win this. They're going to 4-0 the Valiant. Well, that obviously didn't happen. So then what the hell happened with Seoul Dynasty? Oh, they didn't run Ryu Jahong on flex support for most of the time again. Ah, okay. So what are you doing, Seoul Dynasty? What? I don't get it. Why are you messing up like this? Come on, guys. Get your stuff together. All right, you have to 4-0 the San Francisco Shock to keep your hopes alive. They get first held on the second map. Seoul Dynasty's out of the playoffs. Like, then they almost lose to San Francisco Shock. They barely win in a game 5. What happened to Seoul Dynasty at the end of Stage 1? They completely fell apart. Their coaching staff started making weird decisions. Just awful decisions. Not even weird, just terrible decisions. Why is Ryu Jahong agreeing to not playing flex support? The guy's arguably the best support in the game, if not the best player in the game. So I don't know what they were thinking. They turned into an absolute wreck. I was mind blown, completely shocked. I thought Seoul Dynasty was going to make the playoffs, hands down. I thought it'd be them and London Spitfire in the finals. Honestly, like it got to a point to where I didn't really know what to say about Seoul Dynasty. They fell apart. They really did. They looked like the Dallas Fuel from the beginning of the season, but at the end of it, I don't know why they stopped running Ryu Jahong on flex support. They were doing so good at the beginning of the season, and it's Ryu Jahong, man. He's known for that role. Put him on it. Obviously, this was unexpected for me, for you guys, for everyone. Seoul Dynasty finishing outside of the top 3 and not making the playoffs for Stage 1 was not in my vocabulary. I don't think it was in anybody's vocabulary. Moving forward, I think they'll be fine. I don't know now. Like, I think they should be good, right, guys? Like, the Seoul Dynasty, it was just a hiccup there at the end of Stage 1. There's 3 more stages. Obviously, they're going to get their stuff together. They'll be a championship contender at the end of the season, right? I think so. Yeah, okay. And that's it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed it, be sure to drop a like. And please do consider subscribing to my channel if you enjoy my content. I upload Overwatch League videos every single day. If you want to stay up to date on the latest news or watch awesome videos like this, give me a subscription. I really do appreciate all the support. And I'm out of here, guys. Check out all my social medias. Peace.